you've kind of got a community type lifestyle or an individual type lifestyle. And we live in a very individual type lifestyle where it's like, what do I want for my life? And we get very big on, my life purpose and the diet that I eat. And it's me, me, me. Whereas you go to these, and you mentioned how there's similarities between, say, Okinawa and Nicoya in Costa Rica and Ikaria and Sardinia. It's all about the village. Like it's the village that raises the child. It's the village that depends on each other. I talk about it in the context of emotional safety, that people get their emotional safety from others. How do we do that in Australia? This is the challenge I feel like. And again, Mason and I are neighbours. I feel like I would say a lot of people are yearning for that feeling of community. Not that you can easily create it in Australia, because as Mason just said, if you want to go live on the land, it's not like everyone else is living on the land, and it's definitely not as easy as it sounds. So,
well, I mean, like, yeah, as you said, like we're neighbors, our kids go to the same Steiner school, and there's certain principles you could say that majority of our class's parents have, but you definitely couldn't assume that all of your principles are aligned, and there'd be very much certain things you wouldn't bring up with that.
And when was the last time you and I had quality time together, mate? That's the thing. We live not far from each other, but the way that we live in Australia means that I don't bump into Mason all that often. Maybe a crossover at the school run, but often one of us is in the car and just waving out the window. Even today, it's like I could have driven to SuperFeast. I almost did, but then it's like, Zoom makes the dynamics a whole lot easier when it's the three of us. And it's like, in places like Ikaria, Sardinia, Okinawa, they actually don't even really have that option. So it's always in the flesh. So I feel like it's actually about making lifestyle adjustments, to your point, Mason, like there's definitely not one thing. I feel like there's there could be even 100 things, but the 100 for Mason is different for the 100 for Dan, different for the 100 for me, and different for the 100 for everyone listening. Like that's where I feel like it's the best of both worlds.
Then on that, we are realists here, and I think kind of somewhat like the noble savage idea that comes out of a lot of like Western price areas, and I don't want to use the savage word here, but the noble villager, say, is the idea that comes out here, and we put on a pedestal, this village life. And so it kind of creates this like, oh, you must see it, Dan, in clinic a lot. People are like, I'm never going to be able to achieve this. And it's kind of like when people came out of the Avatar movie, the first one, definitely not the second one, and everyone had that post whatever the Pandora depression, because they were like, but so we're in a current way of doing things. We live in a pretty incredible world, very also a very complicated and challenging world. So when you sit on all this data that's there, so Dan, especially from what you're seeing with clinicians, and we're seeing, okay, inviting some of these principles into our lives while also really accepting and embracing the type of world that we are living in, and being realistic about what's actually going to work versus what's going to be maybe patchwork, and then maybe discovering this new type of way of being in harmony within this globalized world. Like, how do you begin to approach that in your own life and in your clients' lives?
Yeah, I always, I shouldn't say I always, more recently, I've placed a lot more focus on, I guess I'm in a bit of an advisory position if someone's booking in to see me and, pay me for my time and whatnot. So the advice, in addition to obviously diet, environment, lifestyle, and the more Western, biomarker, conversation, which I'm sure we'll get to too, a big part of what I'm focusing on these days is more based on focusing and on embracing the things that bring you joy, rather than reaching for certain health parameters, which I definitely was guilty of for a long time. And I think it's natural when you first start this health journey to really dive into that stuff and focus heavily. We've all been there, right? We could talk ad nauseum about that. But after 10, 15, 18, 19 years or whatever it is on that sort of journey, it really is just as simple as, trying to embrace and focus your energy and time and attention more on that, rather than, going, what's the next health hack, and how could I evolve my diet, and what else could I do? What piece of technology can I purchase to get that upgrade? And it's not to say that there aren't, benefits to those things, but in a very simple way, the emphasis, I think, should be on those foundational things. And for me personally, that's music. you know, and for someone else, it might be public speaking. And for the next person, it might be, you know, rugby or whatever it is. Do you agree, Marcus?
Oh,
And
for
mates?
me, it's table tennis.
Yeah.
I was in Sardinia on the last day, and there's a table tennis table there, and Damien and I were playing, and then all of a sudden a Sardinian tourist came up and he wanted to play table tennis, and literally I came home and I'm like, I'm not having enough fun. Like I'm going to just say older people that are living a great life know how to have fun.
Yeah.
I would say they're beautifully selfish with a hyphen between the F and the I, and they know how to do it. So I came home, bought myself a table tennis table for my birthday, and I'm like, life's too short. Like this is you're so on the money here, Dan. And let's be honest, most people are not having enough fun in life, and they might have the best diet, and they might have money in the bank, but they are bored out of their brains. And I'm like, is that really like success? I don't think it is.